Welcome to the Muscles and Magic the Gathering podcast. So, Joe, I am so excited. It is like Christmas. I want you to picture something. It's 2 weeks away from Christmas.
Sure.
And your kids are asking, is Santa coming tomorrow? Is Santa coming tomorrow? Is Santa coming tomorrow? That's how I feel right now. Word on the street is that the Wizards of the Coast, Magic the Gathering head office, is going to unban a bunch of cards in Commander at the end of April. And I can't wait. I need this to happen now. You know, since we've started talking, how many times, like you're new in your Magic the Gathering journey, how many times in the past couple of years have I called you fired up that they banned one of my cards or that they took my things away? Like
I'll put it this way. I know more about the goings on at Wizard of the Coast than I probably would have. There's been a lot of heated conversations.
Yes, Bobby, why you stressed today? These people banned my Jeweled Lotus. Like, just furious, right? The value of my cards tanked. I am angry. I am upset. So apparently we're having a mass unbanning.
All right.
And I can't wait. Like, I cannot wait, Joe, because I want all my cards back. Now, first of all, they never really took them away from me. Anyway, if you know anything about me as a player, I play with something called Rule Zero. So we talked about in former podcasts, we'll put some links in the show notes to them. We talked about the bracket system. We've talked about cards you can use and can't use. And I've always played with banned cards, Joe. Like, my rule is if Magic prints it, you can play it at my table. And that works out if everybody plays by the same rules.
Right, yeah.
What the banned list was meant to do was make games competitive between everybody. So if you go to a tournament, there's going to be some type of banned list, right?
Yeah.
If you're playing with a friend group at I shouldn't even say a friend group. If you're playing with new people at your LGS or your local gaming store and everyone agrees to a bracket 3 game, okay, we're not allowed banned cards. But I sat at tables where we play Rule Zero. You talk about Session Zero in Dungeons and Dragons, like how are we playing today? But we're allowed banned cards, right? Or sometimes we ban cards that aren't banned by Magic the Gathering. Like, we don't want to play against that because it's quote unquote not fun or whatever that looks like. Anyway, I'm a person that subscribes to, if Magic prints it, I want to play it. I want the best cards. And if you and I sit down to play, I would rather play 5 really fast-paced games in an hour than play one game that drags out and drags out and drags out and drags out. As long as we have a similar deck, we're good. But that said, they're going to unban a bunch of cards. So everyone's talking about, like, what cards are they going to unban, Joe? And I want to give you a little bit of a history lesson. And you actually know this, but this is for our viewers because I called you and was raging about this. The Commander format, the rules actually weren't enforced by Wizards of the Coast. It was the only game, like, they enforced the rules of Legacy, Standard, Modern. It was the only game they had. And by the way, Commander is the most popular game, but there was a Commander committee that did not work for Wizards of the Coast that was in charge of the ban list and the rules. Well, recently, they decided to do a massive banning. They banned Jeweled Lotus, they banned Mana Crypt, they banned Dockside Extortionist. The community was enraged to the point, Joe, these people were getting death threats. Now, I want to say, and I can tell by your, like, smirking, that's not cool, right? Like, no one deserves death threats over a card game. Like, that was some really, really poor behavior. And no one on this council or this rules committee deserved that at all. So I want to put that out there. That said, they decided, and I want you to think about this, Joe. Imagine you had a button that you could push that could cause hundreds of thousands of people to lose hundreds of dollars in an instant. You're really going to push that button? Like, it's a pretty ill-conceived thing to do. In fact, Wizards has come out and said, we urged the committee not to do this. Like, this is in really bad faith. And especially, you've been buying cards. How much was that collector's boosters pack you bought? 25 bucks, 30 bucks?
25 bucks.
So imagine you invest money into a game, and that card that used to be worth something is now not worth anything because it's banned or you can't play with it. Like, that's a lot of negative feelings that come out. I've also went on record as saying, and two things can be true at the same time. I think the committee's heart was in the right place. Like, I don't think they were trying to hurt people's feelings. I don't think they were trying to do something that was in poor interests of the game. But at the same time, I think they were damaging the game, and I think they were doing things that weren't in the best interests of the game. There's a certain thing that happens, Joe, in the Magic community where it's like become the haves versus the have-nots.
Right, yeah.
So I like to spend my money on Magic the Gathering cards. I don't have a problem paying $60 for a card and putting it in my deck. You, on the other hand, I will never pay $50 for a piece of cardboard.
Right.
But then you will complain about the price of cards and tell me that I'm not allowed to play with said card. Meanwhile, you buy Starbucks every day. You buy the premium gas. You just blew $70 at the bar on booze. You spent $600 on a purse or shoes or like whatever you did. Like, Joe, money's money, right? Like, you're going to spend what you value, but it almost became a thing where the haves versus the have-nots. I don't want you to be too competitive. We need to scale the competitiveness back. No, I want you to increase the competitiveness. I want to have access to all the best cards. Does my logic make sense to you?
Yeah.
Like, I want to play a good, hard game.
I've always had a sense, too, that there's this, almost a pay-to-play thing of if all you do is just invest thousands and thousands of dollars, then you get access to God-tier cards that the typical collector is just never going to have access to.
Yep.
And so, like, to try to level that playing field, I can imagine, well, we got to take a lot of these top-tier cards.
Get rid of this. Let's get rid of this. Let's get rid of this, right?
Yeah.
But
at the same time, if I invested $1,000 in a card and all of a sudden it was worthless, yeah, I'd be pretty pissed.
Yeah, I'd be pretty pissed. But here's the other thing that happens. The banned list, Joe, it wasn't always, what's the word I'm looking for? The logic wasn't always congruent. Things didn't add up. So like one card would be banned because they said it was oppressive. But a card that basically did the same thing wasn't banned because that was just fine.
That's a great point because that's one of the things that you've taught me a lot playing this game, because we talk about, okay, here's a card that I would want to have in my elf deck or in my rabbit deck, but it's an expensive card. So what's the budget version of that? So there's always 2 or 3 or 10 different versions of a card. So what are you going to do? Ban all the cards?
Yep. So we're going to go over on that note, by the way, we're going to go over 10 cards that I think should be unbanned with this unbanning coming. We're going to rush to get this podcast out because I know we want to get this out before the unbanning comes out. I want to see, actually, we're going to go back and revisit this in time and see if I can go 10 for 10, right? But there may be a card on this list called Hull Breacher. I cannot confirm nor deny that. And Hull Breacher, Joe, punishes people for card draw. That was banned because the committee didn't like it. There's a card called Narset that is more punishing for card draw. In fact, it shuts down card draw completely. But that's totally legal. And it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
It's like, how is one allowed and one is not when one's actually worse? And there were cards, Joe, that were banned 5 years ago that never came off the banned list, that with power creep and stuff getting more and more powerful, actually in today's landscape aren't nearly as bad, if that makes sense.
Yeah, sure.
So what do you do about that? So to give me an example with that, Joe, I'm going to look up the Hull Breacher right now so you have like a better idea of what we're talking about. Right?
Yep.
So the Hull Breacher, oh, there you go. You're showing off the list. Spoiler alert. All right. Stay tuned. We're going to get to these 10 cards. Hang in there. All right. So, Joe, Hull Breacher. If an opponent would draw a card, except the first one they draw in each of their draw steps, you create a treasure token. Okay, so you have this on the battlefield. Every time I draw an extra card, you make a treasure token. That was deemed oppressive. It was deemed unfun, and it was taken away from the game. You got it?
Yep.
I can still draw cards. It just means you make a treasure token.
Right.
That's banned. But then Magic came out with Narset Parter of Veils. Each opponent can't draw more than one card each turn. It shuts down card draw completely.
Yeah.
But that's totally legal.
Right.
So that's my point. How can Hull Breacher be banned, but Narset's allowed? Right? You want to ban my Dockside Extortionist, but you'll allow me to have a Smothering Tithe or a Ristic Study, which people complain about. The bottom line is there will always be cards people complain about. There will always be cards that are quote-unquote overpowered, and people complain that they're unfun. And it's people that really just don't want a competitive game. And what it is, it's people, Joe, and I'll call them crybabies that can't handle losing. And I'll say this, that might have hurt your feelings. You might have shut off the podcast right now, but I'll say this, Joe. I have never cared whether I've won or lost a Magic the Gathering game.
Yeah.
When I sit down to play with you, it's us interacting. It's us sharing joy of a common love. It's us storytelling. It's us having fun. Like, one of the things I love about Dungeons and Dragons is, like, there's no real winner. Yep. Everybody's a winner for experiencing the adventure.
Yeah, exactly.
I love seeing you, you know, we sit down, hey, how's your kids? How's your kids? How's the wife? How's this? How's that? Like, that's why I want to converse with you. I'm not going home and crying myself to sleep because I lost a Magic the Gathering.
Right. And like, I want to see cool combos and I want to see fun things happen. You know what I mean? Like, I've invested money in like my Aetherflex reservoir and my Bolas Citadel. Like, I want to see those come to the table and, like,
bring it on.
You know, it's funny. It's fun. And again, it's us interacting and having a good time with it.
Exactly. And so that's my case. There should be no banned cards, but there is going to be some type of ban list for competition. So with that said, let's go over 10 cards that I think should be unbanned.
All right, let's do it.
Number 1, Joe, and you saw a little spoiler earlier, is something we call Prime Time. Whenever Primeval Titan enters the battlefield or attacks, you search your library for up to 2 land cards, put them on the battlefield tapped, then shuffle your library. Insane card. And by the way, that noise is I just dropped a 20-sided die. That's how you know I'm a nerd, when I have all kinds of these hanging out. But this card, Joe, you read that, you need that for your elf deck. This is incredibly, incredibly powerful. All right? The fact that every time he enters the battlefield, and you could do this thing called flickering, where you get him off the battlefield and onto the battlefield again, like exile it, return it to the battlefield. You just fill your battlefield with lands. Super powerful card. So it was banned. My argument is it costs 6 mana. That's a big casting cost.
Yeah.
My other argument is, and I'll use this argument a lot, and you have this combo in your elf deck, it's very unscrupulous. Marwyn with the Staff of Domination and a limited mana. Like, you can go fish for your land, sure, but with a Marwyn and Staff of Domination, you could almost make it a limited land. So, like, I don't know how bad this card actually is. By the way, Gaia's Cradle, we talked about Gaia's Cradle as a game breaker in the Game Breakers episode. Again, a path to, like, unlimited land. I don't think this card is that bad, especially with the high casting cost. Now, if this only costs 1 or 2, maybe I get it. But I think this should come off the list. And I actually played with this in my landfall deck. I love it. But it's by far, there's a card called Briskly Bill, Joe. It's a new card from the Outlaws of Thunder Junction that if you had to put a gun to my head and said you got to cut Primeval Titan or Briskly Bill from your deck, I would cut the Primeval Titan. So based on that, I think it should be legalized.
Yeah.
Next up, card number 2. The Jeweled Lotus. This was one of those cards, committee banjo, that sparked this whole thing. And by the way, the best part of this was this banning was so controversial and so bad. Wizards said enough is enough. Your privileges are revoked. We are taking control.
You're done.
This situation. Now, it might not have been that. I think the committee wanted nothing to do with this anymore. after the death threats, after the nonsense. Like I think it wasn't just they took it away. I think there might have been some resigning there as well. But this is one of the cards that sparked that. Jeweled Lotus, sacrifice Jeweled Lotus, add 3 mana of any color, spend this only to cast your commander. Super powerful. You want to get your commander out? This is your ticket right here. This card is one of the best mana ramp cards in the history of Magic the Gathering.
Yeah.
The reason I think it needs to be back on the list is because there is a big discrepancy, Joe. How much does your Lathril cost? I think it's a converted mana cost of 3.
Yeah.
I got to look that up. It's pretty low, right?
Yeah, it's low.
It's not hard to get Lathril out of the, I'm going to look it up right now. I should be able to remember this. It's one of my favorite decks. It costs 4.
4, yeah. Yeah, it's
not that hard.
One green, 1 black, and 2
Yep,
of anything.
2 colorless.
Right?
Not that hard to get a Lathril out. Now, Ezio, right, from the Assassin's Creed, that only costs 2. You can get that out super fast.
Yeah.
But what happens if you're playing with one of these commanders that's a converted mana cost of 9 or 8 or 7? Like, you will never get in the game. So based just on that, the Jeweled Lotus, yes, it does give an advantage. Like if you're playing a mono green deck like Marwyn, this allows you to get it out turn 1. Okay, fine. But it also helps my big commanders. And I want to see the big commanders make a comeback. You almost can't play with them these days. I build decks on them because I'm not just about competition. Again, I want to build for my collection and build for fun. But I want to be able to play with these big commanders reasonably, and Jeweled Lotus helps me do that.
Yeah.
So free Jeweled Lotus. Next up. The Mana Crypt. Another one of those 3, Joe, that got the committee in trouble. The Mana Crypt. It's a 0-drop artifact. At the beginning of your upkeep, flip a coin. If you lose the flip, Mana Crypt deals 3 damage to you. Add 2 mana to your mana pool. Super powerful card. Even if you take 3 damage every turn, it is so worth it to get the extra mana, especially if you get this in your opening hand. Kind of useless towards the end of the game. Like you don't, if you had this in the hand, you'd use it as a throwaway.
Yeah.
But super powerful card, but I think it should be allowed. There are so many other 0-drop artifacts in the game. Mox Diamond, Chrome Mox, Mox Opal. Let Mana Crypt go free. And again, it helps that big commander, Joe.
Well,
so why not?
What if it was like it costs 1 or 2 mana? Would that change the thinking on this card?
So I think it would change the thinking, but I want to put this in perspective, Joe.
Okay.
You have a Soul Ring in your deck.
Yep.
You pay 1 mana, and you get 2 mana every single turn with no penalty. That's not banned.
Right.
The committee said it was too iconic to ban it. This costs 0. You get 2 mana, but you get 3 damage every turn. Would you see? I see your face because you know the answer to this. Would you rather get a Soul Ring in your opening hand or a Mana Crypt? And the answer is always Soul Ring.
Yeah.
So this is what I'm talking about when I say the inconsistency of the banned list. Is that the Soul Ring's a more powerful card.
Yeah.
Soul Ring is arguably the most powerful mana ramp card of all time. And that's totally okay, but this is banned. This is where I have a problem with the inconsistencies. Now, the reason they didn't ban Soul Ring is because Soul Ring has been included in every pre-con that Magic has ever printed.
Yeah.
That's and if you took Soul Ring out, it makes all of those pre-cons now, like, not playable.
Yeah.
Which really sucks. I get the logic, but at the same time, then why punish my Mana Crypt?
Yeah.
Because again, I will take the Soul Ring any day over a Mana Crypt.
You
know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, unban Mana Crypt. Next one up. Oh. We already have Primeval Titan. Okay. The Hull Breacher, Joe, which we talked about. The Hull Breacher punishes card draw. Apparently, it makes the game unfun. I would unban this based solely on other cards like Narset that do the same thing, but worse. I think when this card came out, it was a little overpowered and changed the landscape. But with power creep, I really think this has a place in the game, is not nearly as powerful as it once was.
Sure.
So this guy gets a pass because it's kind of been passed by. When it came out, it was bonkers. But it's not so bonkers anymore when you look at all the other things.
Yeah. Well, the game's evolved, you know?
That's right. And there are a host of cards, Joe. Ristic Study, Smothering Tithe, Narset, the Grand Abolisher, the Dranith Magistrate, which were on the Game Changers list, that punish other players.
Yeah.
Free my Hellbreacher. Next up. Oh, everybody's favorite, the Dockside Extortionist. When Dockside Extortionist enters the battlefield, create X treasure tokens, where X is the number of artifacts and enchantments. Joe, this is one of the best cards ever created. It's got a low casting cost, and this essentially can turn the tide of the game on turn 2.
Sure.
Because there's a lot of people with these 0-drop artifacts. So you can imagine when this was legal, along with Jeweled Lotus and Mana Crypt, you're playing a 4-person game. Jimmy puts out a Soul Ring and a Jeweled Lotus. And then Tommy puts out a Mana Crypt and a Mox Opal. And then Sally puts out a Lotus Petal, like all these 0-drop artifacts. And then Joe slaps down the Dockside Extortionist and gets like 9 million treasure tokens and can just cast his whole hand. Very powerful card. But with all these people allowed to play these super low-cost artifacts, this is the only way I can balance the game.
Right. Yeah.
Otherwise, I should be allowed to balance. You want to play these super... And by the way, Joe, look up the cost of a Mox Diamond right now. So a Mox Diamond is going to cost you, I think it's about $600.
Yep. 680.
Okay. The only way I can balance that is with a Dockside Extortionist. I can't just go out and buy. Well, I can, but a lot of people can't go out and buy. That sounded so pretentious, by the way. But a lot of people won't go buy a Mox Diamond. But if you want to play against me and I have a Mox Diamond, this is your ticket. And you can get this for about $20. So I think it should be legalized on that. The other thing is, Joe, white's gotten insanely powerful. Green is out of control.
Yeah.
Blue players are the scum of the earth. Their deck is always the most powerful. Mono black. Red, it's lagging behind. It needs some help. This was like the one card that made red a threat.
Yeah.
Why did we take it away? So we have the Dockside. Next up. Read this, Joe.
All right. This spell can't be countered. When you cast this spell, take an extra turn after this one. Flying, protection from colored spells, Annihilator 6. And when Emrakul, the Aeon's Thorn, is put into a graveyard from anywhere, its owner shuffles their graveyard into their libraries.
Annihilator 6 means you have to sacrifice 6 of your permanents when I attack. This is like a game ender. This card is bonkers. But we talked about bonkers cards. Look at the casting cost on it.
Yeah, it's 15.
This is why. There's a whole thing in Magic, Joe. When you see a card that's a casting cost like this, here's a good one. Ruinous Ultimatum. Okay?
Yep.
The casting cost is 7, Joe. Destroy all non-land permanents your opponents control. Goodbye. You are the weakest link. Everything on your board is gone, and I'm cool. But that's why the casting cost is 7. Like, there's no way. So there is kind of a thing you can pay attention to in Magic, Joe. The splashier the card, the more powerful the card, the higher the casting cost.
Right, yeah.
So this is a 15. Now, there are other cards like Emrakul, the Promised End. So I'm gonna look that up so you don't have to on screen right now.
Sure.
So Emrakul, the Promised End, is totally legal. I actually play it as my commander in my Eldrazi deck. This spell costs 1 less to cast for each card type among cards in your graveyard. When you cast this spell, you gain control of target opponent during that player's next turn. After that turn, that player takes an extra turn. Find trample protection from instants. Dude, that's an insanely powerful card too.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what's worse for you, me taking an extra turn or me taking control of your turn and just being able to wreak havoc on your board state. But based on the power of the other Eldrazi Titans and the high casting cost of this card, I think it's time to let it go. I think it's time to bring this back. Now, if this was a casting cost of 5, I get it. Like, it's insane. But it's a high enough
again, like you're not getting this out in turn 1 or turn 2 or turn 3. I mean, think about even my Crater Hoof and my Elf deck.
Yep.
Like, I'm not pulling that thing out in early game. Like, it takes some time to set it up, but once that thing hits the board, like, game's over.
Yeah,
That's
and this
the
is the game number 2. So why is Crater? I'm glad you brought that up. Why is Crater Hoof allowed and this not? Like, I get this is like a game changer, but okay. And by the way, Joe, the extra turn thing, that's what everyone's worried about.
Hey.
There's a card called Time Sieve that if you sacrifice, I think it's 5 or 6 artifacts, you get an extra turn. Mm-hmm. There are so many unlimited combos you can make with that to chain off extra turns.
Oh,
this gives you 1. That one, you could do as many extra turns as you want. So, like, again, the logic isn't there. So, next card. Golos, Tireless Pilgrim. Much maligned commander. When it enters the battlefield, you may search your library for a land card and then put that card onto the battlefield tapped and shuffle your library, and then you pay a bunch of mana and you can basically like cast whatever you want from the top of your library. Okay, great. This used to be an insanely powerful commander, Joe. People found ways to cheat it out of the battlefield and into the battlefield and out of the battlefield, into the battlefield. You fill your battlefield with lands, you pay this giant casting cost, and then basically the top 3 cards of your library, you're just playing.
Sure.
Super powerful card. But there's a lot of commanders that have passed this by. Urza, the new Ketramos is insane from Ether Drift. Like, there are a bunch of commanders now, Joe, that this isn't looking. This is one of the ones that was like doomed by time, but it honestly isn't looking so unfair right now. And if I showed up to a table and I had to play against Golos or Urza, who's not banned, I would play against Golos any day. Yeah. So I think in the landscape of what's happening, this guy needs to get a pass. We need to resurrect him. Next one. Iona, Shield of Emeria. Is it Iona, Shield of Emeria, enters the battlefield, choose a color. Your opponents can't cast spells of the chosen color.
You're done.
So, I mean, you play mono red, mono black, mono blue, it is over. For you, actually, mono blue, you might have a chance because you can counterspell this on the way out. But
yeah, there's a lot of counterspell.
This is bad. This is pretty impressive. That said, you shouldn't build monocolored decks. I build them, but you shouldn't. You just got to know it's your risk, Joe. Like, if you have an all-green deck and I have an anti-green deck, you're in for a bad day.
Yeah.
Right? But there are a bunch of other cards that shut people right down. Again, Drannith Magistrate, Voice of Victory, Grand Abolisher. Well, they don't nuke an entire color. They nuke a lot of other stuff. Mm-hmm. So I think this should come out. And it's also a ginormous casting cost.
Yeah. It's a 9.
It's ginormous. Like, you should be able to win the game if you're building a deck right before this even sees the battlefield. So I say free Iona. It's time. Based on casting cost alone. Mm-hmm. If that was casting cost 2, this card should have never been created. Even 4. 9, I'm willing to deal with.
Right.
Next up. Tolarian Academy, Joe. People hate this card. Why? Because people hate blue. Mm-hmm. Blue is mean. Blue is unfun. Blue ruins your day. But you add a mana to your mana pool, blue mana for each artifact you control. This is absolutely bonkers in an Urza deck.
Sure.
My question is, people come at me for this all the time, how is this that much different than a Gaia's Cradle?
Sure, yeah.
Right? Like, they're worried about the 0-drop artifacts and there's stuff in the metagame where I can, like, ramp up mana right away. But Gaia's Cradle again. How is Gaia's Cradle legal? This is not. That's my whole argument on this thing. And these things are hard to find and they're expensive. Like, Gaia's Cradle is legal, and I have 2 of them.
Yeah.
There are thousands. You won't run into a lot of people that play with a Gaia's Cradle. So I don't think this is going to be that much of a problem anyway, because it's not like these things can just get manufactured, Joe. They're from an ancient set. They're not getting reprinted ever. There's only so many of them. If this was unbanned, the value would explode.
Yeah.
It's like, I think it should be unbanned based on the whole Gaia's Cradle argument. Maybe that doesn't make sense to you, but here's where we're at. And my Urza deck, I have one of these in my Urza's deck, and this card has helped me win some games. I'm not going to downplay how good this land is, but I play games. It's one of the 100 that I play with in that deck. Usually it's the other 0-drop artifacts that are helping me more than this. So unbanned, Tolarian Academy. Do we have anything left on the list? I can't even remember what I added here.
Tolarian was our last one.
All right. So there we go. Those are the cards, Joe, that I think should be unbanned. Now, one more shout out. Rafellos Lanoir Emissary. Let's get him out of retirement. I'm going to read him right here. Actually, bring him up on your screen.
Yep.
Because this benefits you as well. This is our final card.
Spell it for me.
Rosfellos Lanoir Emissary. There we go. Pops up. Beautiful card. Beautiful.
I can get the picture.
All right, we're going to bring this up. Here we go, John. And I actually have one of these in my deck. Read that to me.
All right. Add 1 green mana to your mana pool for each forest you control.
Powerful AF and banned. But again, Joe, you play with elves. So you can add 1 green mana to your mana pool for each forest you control. Or you have a Gaia's Cradle, which is completely legal. And I know I'm measuring a lot of stuff against a Gaia's Cradle, but a Gaia's Cradle is totally allowed. And you get a green mana for each creature you control. So which one's better? I'm going to argue they're about the same.
Yeah.
In fact, I think a Gaia's Cradle is actually better. But this isn't that.
Yeah. Well, especially like my elf deck is we're creating so many tokens. So like you're just getting sheer numbers of stuff out. I usually have more tokens out than I've got lands.
Yep.
So there you go.
You'll get a ton of stuff. Now, the other card, Circle of Dreams Druid, it costs 3 mana. How much does Rafellos cost? 2?
Yeah, 2.
Circle of Dream Druids cost 3. You get a mana for every creature you control. Okay, so that's allowed. The Priest of Titania, you get a mana for every elf you control, and it only costs 2. These cards are not that much different. So if you don't have, I'm looking at your elf deck you build right now, we'll actually show you what we're talking about. In the show notes, I'll put a link to Joe's elf deck. I could argue that whether I added a Circle of Dreams Druids, a Priest of Titania, which I actually think you have, a Gaia's Cradle, or a Rafellos, I actually think, in a way, Rafellos is the last one I would add out of those. I would add it for value. If I was just going to give you a free card, this is a $50 card, I would give you the Silver Priest of Titania.
Right.
But the way Lathril works, I think a Priest of Titania, Circle of Dreams Druid, and a Gaia's Cradle actually work better. I just don't know if this really moves the needle, especially your Lathril deck is black and green, which now is going to cut the amount of forests you have in half. So as an added bonus, I'm going to say Rafellos is, he should be allowed in there, Joe.
Yeah, I see it.
And that's it. Now, my real question is, because I am disorganized AF, I need you to scroll back. I want to make sure we got our 10 cards. This might have been 11.
All right, there's one.
There was one more.
2, 3.
There's one more I was going to send
4,
you.
5, 6, 7. We started with that one, though. 8, 9. Yeah, we're 1 short.
Okay, so what do we got? Let's recap for the people. Let's go. Here.
Yeah.
And let's recap, and then I might add one more off the top of my head. You ready?
All right.
Primeval Titan. Jeweled Lotus. Mana Crypt.
Already did that one.
Hull Breacher, Dockside Extortionist, Emrakul, Golos, Iona, Tolarian Academy, and we got Raphaelos. We have 10 cards. We are good, Joe. We did it. Here we go. I actually had a picture of as an added bonus of Caracas, which is another one, Joe. It's a legendary land. You can see right here. You had a white mana, and then if you tap it, you can return target legendary creature to its owner's hand. So that's a way you can perpetuate. Remember I was talking about blinking Golos in and out of that. Like you can get stuff to your hand, get it back on the battlefield, get it to your land, get it back on the battlefield. Caracas, I think, should be unbanned too. I don't think it's like anywhere near the most powerful land. I think it should be unbanned. In fact, I think everything should be unbanned, but I'd love to hear from you. Joe would too, because Joe wants to do, because he is a cheater, a liar, a manipulator. He's unsavory.
What I like is when there's a clear guideline as to like what are the the elements, the characteristics that lead to a card needing to be banned. And there's just inconsistency here.
You can see it.
You've got one card that's banned and another that's even more powerful than that's not banned. Like, that's incongruent, like you said earlier. And I just want there to be a clear, like, yes, this card definitely should be banned and this one is not, and here's why. And that just doesn't exist right now.
I'm going to say the thing that everybody's been thinking, but nobody wants to say, Joe. You know how the committee banned cards? They banned cards that they didn't like with personal bias.
Sure.
I don't like playing against that card. So imagine I'm on the committee and I play against you every Friday. And I'm just sick and tired of you winning with the Craterhoof Behemoth. That needs to get banned. Let's ban it. Like, that's essentially what it was. Call it what it is. It was you banning cards you didn't like playing against, or enough people in your ear complained against about that you felt compelled to ban it. But again,
this is like lobbyists in Congress, right?
Exactly.
Whoever makes the most noise.
There wasn't, and they would try to logic their way out of it. But again, you have Soul Ring, you're not allowed to Mana Crypt. Like, it just doesn't fly with me. You're allowed to Gaia's Cradle, you're not allowed to Tolarian Academy. You're allowed to Emrakul the Promised End, you're not allowed to Emrakul the Eon's Torn. You're allowed a Narset, which is an awful, people hate that card. In fact, I know people, Joe, and that card's not banned. I know people who will take that out of their deck because they just don't want to be that guy.
Sure.
But Hull Breacher's banned. What it comes down to is you ban that card because you didn't like it personally. That's my issue with this whole thing.
Yeah.
And, by the way, if you don't like this list, you can do two things for me before we go. One, remember I was going on about how unscrupulous you are? You can put cards in the comments that you think should come off the unbanned list so Joe can go buy them.
Yeah.
Or you can put cards that you think should be banned so Joe can go buy those because he wants to fill his deck with mean, nasty, overpowered cards. You know what I mean, Joe? But like on that note, to end on a serious note, even if I play with a deck that's completely legal, if I have the budget for it and you don't, I'm going to run all over you. That's why the bracket system was created.
Yeah.
So I think you make everything legal. I think there should be a sixth bracket. We'll call it Dimension X, where all cards are legal and you just play.
This is the all drug Olympics, right? This is like, we're not even going to bother testing. Let's see what can be done.
Because we can run into the problem. What happens if we both build bracket 3 decks and I have a $2,000 budget and you only have a $100 budget? Like, that's not that. Like, the banned list cannot make up for that.
Right. Yeah.
Now, if you could play with some banned cards, that might, you get on cheap. So I think you unban everything. And here's my pitch. You keep the bracket system as is, like in 1, 2, 3, and 4, 5, there's no banned cards. Then move some of these off the banned list into the Game Changers list.
Sure.
And then make another bracket called Dimension X, where, by the way, I totally invented the term Dimension X by myself. I've never heard that anywhere. But you just... There you go, Joe. DVDs. The DVDs still a thing. Krang is Lord of Dimension X. But I say you take a bunch of these off the ban list, put them on the Game Changers list. Some of them are not as powerful as the Game Changers that they have there.
Mm-hmm.
Then make this Dimension X where it's like, hey, you can play with whatever cards you want.
Well, and how about this? If you want to have a tournament, you get to set your rules.
Yep. That's it. You and I can make our own bracket and say, you know what, Joe? We're only allowed 5 Game Changers.
It only allowed banned cards.
Yep, you're only allowed banned cards. Let's do it. So there is our list. Subscribe, turn your notifications on, and get in the comments. Tell us if you agree with these cards, what you think should be unbanned, or what you think should be banned. We would absolutely love to hear from you.